Hey guys, human rights attorney Lee Dundas here. You know, I was wearing my mask today. This is the only kind of mask I ever really wear, and I thought I'd do a little video to memorialize it for posterity's sake. And I want to give you my honest opinion, just a couple quick minutes here, about January 6th and how it relates to what I'm doing right now, which, in case you couldn't guess, I'm out here in God's country, camping, dirt bike riding, getting wild and crazy, riding rhinos, and I don't mean Mitch McConnell when I say that. I mean things like the thing behind me, riding dirt bikes, riding quads. You know, I didn't grow up in a white-collar family. I grew up in a bit of a blue-collar family. My dad worked in auto body shops. My mom was a homemaker who taught exercise classes on the side. And but, you know, we didn't have a ton of money, but I grew up pretty wild, pretty free, running around the hills, hiking, climbing trees, riding horses, my little pony that I had, you name it. And then when I was 17, I started hanging out with, you know, the guys I'd always hung out with, but they, you know, I was a tomboy. I was hanging out with a bunch of guys, and they started doing motorsports, and they introduced me to snow skiing and water skiing and stand-up jet skiing and quad riding and dirt bike riding and everything in between. And I spent my first law firm paycheck. I'm not embarrassed to tell you what I did with it. I bought a stand-up 650 Kawasaki jet ski, and I still ride that thing today. I can ride it upside down, backward, forward, submarine that thing, jump it, 360 it, you name it. It was the best damn money I ever spent. Second only to stuff like this. So, in case you couldn't tell, I like to ride anything that moves: dirt bikes, snow skis, you know, horses, anything that I can feel the wind in my hair. I can feel myself being out in nature. I can feel myself going fast. What I'm really saying is I like the feeling of freedom. I really love the feeling of freedom. And I was fortunate enough to grow up in a land that was free, being able to do things that felt free up until March of this year. You know, last time we were out here, it was Thanksgiving. I did a quick little video on Thanksgiving. If you didn't catch it, my hair was totally crazy because I've been riding. And my daughter actually started riding an orange Predator 500 41 horsepower Troy Lee edition. We had a bunch of friends out here. It's not our usual ride, but we rearranged all the bikes to accommodate people, and she was riding that. And she knows better when, you know, you're going up a vertical face. She knows you give it a little gas, you goose it. And we were going up a pretty steep mountain, and there was a pretty gnarly, straight up vertical section of rock. And she did what she'd been taught to do. She's been riding forever. She goosed that thing. But goosing a Troy Lee, you know, Predator is a little different than goosing her old bike. And she came off that vertical, and that bike went straight up, and so did she. And I turned around, and my stomach dropped through the damn ground because she went down, and the bike came down on top of her. And I was off my bike faster than a duck on a June bug, flipping her bike off of her. But I got back out here this time yesterday, and I said, well, which of the quads do you want to ride? And she pointed to the orange one, and she said, I'm going to ride the orange one. I'm getting back on it, the Predator. And even though my heart was in my mouth, I looked at her and I said, all right, kid, let's go. Because at the end of the day, folks, I'm raising an adult, not an appendage, not a robot, not a slave. And I need a kid who is going to be able to function in a free society as a free individual. With life comes risk. And it is in overcoming that risk that you get the adventure, and at the end of that is when you get your reward. And my job is not to make my child safe by removing her freedom. My job is to lead her to her freedom. And the same is true of our government. We elect them to preserve our freedom, folks, not to make us safe by removing it. We need to be in Washington, D.C. next Tuesday and Wednesday, January 5th and 6th. As I've mentioned, I'm going to be speaking on the U.S. Supreme Court steps along with General Flynn's family. I think Trump came out in the last 24 hours, indicated he's going to actually be speaking from the White House during those 2 days. And we need to be there. Anybody who's ever played sports, who has ever stood on a stage, who has ever done anything like that knows the indescribable power of the group. There is a power to numbers of people being present in one place at one time with one objective. There is an integrity that goes along with that. There is a momentum that goes along with that. It's not something you can phone in. It is not something you mail in. It is not something you can measure, but it is there. It is real. This is the biggest damn game of your life. And we're not playing for the trophy at the end. We are playing for the difference between freedom or the lack thereof, between being able to raise your children to do whatever the hell they want, even if that's getting on a Polaris and taking a damn mountain again, We're living in the equivalent of North Korea. There is an election that is at stake. There is, more to the point, a process that is at stake and an integrity that needs to happen to that process. And there is a big difference between 8 people showing up to watch what's going on in the Capitol next Tuesday and Wednesday and 800 showing up, or 8 million showing up, or 80 million showing up. I want you to think about how the people in the Capitol are going to behave if 8 people show up versus 80 million people showing up. We have a job to do. We have a job to do in holding our government's feet to the fire and making sure that there is integrity in this election and making sure that our elected representatives do their damn job, which is to keep this country free. I'll see you in Washington, D.C. Tuesday and Wednesday, and have one heck of a New Year's Eve tonight. We need to have a much better 2021 than the year that's behind us, right? Take care, guys.